Hey, Dan, I was just thinking, how do you think we should get into this episode?
It's easy.
What do you think?
What's your favorite oatmeal?
What's my favorite oatmeal?
Yeah.
Do I like them steel cut oats with mixed berries and brown sugar?
The berries?
Berries. I like blueberries. I like raspberries. Occasionally, not all the time, some blackberries.
Yeah.
And I do like bananas in there too.
All together?
Yeah, all in one bowl.
Sounds pretty tasty.
Pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your favorite oatmeal?
I like the berries. I like dried fruits sometimes though, like craisins,
yeah.
raisins,
That's good stuff.
maybe some dried bananas to
Some
go with the
DBs.
craisins and the raisins.
Craisins, raisins, and DBs.
Yeah.
Dude, well, I just want to acknowledge, I feel like you were able to pinpoint what is your favorite oatmeal there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's growth, man.
Super easy.
Super easy. I like some oatmeal.
All right, why don't we jump in? Don't you got some night shouts for us?
Dude, well, first we're going Beyond Flag today. That's exciting, huh?
Oh yeah, beyond. I'm super excited.
Yeah, no doubt. But I do got some nice shouts. Not to be repetitive, but I do want to shout out the Flag Film Fest in Orpheum Flag again.
Well, they earned it.
They earned it. So last week they showcased Colorado River Days.
Some good films.
Oh, I really enjoyed it. There were three particularly that really stood out to me. And they involved some local people here as well.
Yeah.
You know, the first one was Water Flows Together, which was a short film that elevates the importance of acknowledging indigenous land and outdoor recreation through the voice of Colleen Cooley, who lives here in Flag. And she's one of the few female Dene river guides on the San Juan.
Yeah. How powerful. What a great presence.
Great presence. And that film was so cool. You know, she was just talking about growing up in Shantou. She was talking about connection to land, connection to water, and just a lot of the wisdom and indigenous custom.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a great film.
I thought they had the other one, Martin's Boat. That one was super good too.
Yeah.
Like so powerful, both about just briefly touching on the benefits of conservation, but also just about using the river as an emblematic microcosm of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good. Thought provoking.
Thought provoking, man. And just to I guess this is long before us, but him fighting wholeheartedly or putting so much effort into preventing a dam from being built in Marble Canyon.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to think there could be a dam there.
Yeah. And making it possible for people to use the river still. So that one was produced by Pete McBride, and it's Martin Litton that advocated to keep that dam out of there.
Yeah, no doubt. And they featured Dale Duffy in there, and his dad. And a quick anecdote, I think my folks used to run boats with his dad
Oh, really?
back in the day. Yeah. They ran a boat with him.
Really good film.
Yeah, great film. Martin's Boat. And then there was another one that was super fun to watch called Can't Beat This Place for Fun. And this was a film about Fretwater Boat Works right here in Flagpole.
Here in Flagpole, Arizona.
Here in Flagpole, Arizona, nice. And it featured Brad Dimmick and Amy Cricket Rust and Pat Clark, who were cranking wooden dories out of that boat shop.
Yeah.
And it looked like they're having a really bitchin' time while they're doing it.
Good for them.
Good for them, man. And kind of connecting Martin's Boat with that one is they were talking about how his legacy lives through those wooden dories.
Yeah.
They would name them after places that have been harmed by man.
Yeah.
Basically.
Land. Yeah.
Yeah. So super bitchin' film fest or virtual showcase again. Big shout out to Flag Film Fest and Orpheum Flag for hosting.
Good for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, shout out another podcast from Flagpole, Arizona as well.
Hey, more potties dropping out of Flagpole.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Desert Voices.
Hey, Holland and Shailene.
Yeah, shout out. So a lot of work put into it. That first episode, really powerful concepts, I thought.
Yeah. Interesting parallels and that kind of thing.
Yeah. About the world, about fire.
Yeah.
About actually, the benefits that come from fire.
Yeah. So big shout out to Holland and Shailene, Desert Voices. We want to, for me, I'm just excited to see more content come out of this town. It's really cool to see people doing things, creating.
Yeah.
Last nice shout for the day.
Oh, man.
The homie.
The
Underscore
homie.
Josie R. Underscore.
The homie.
Our neighbor. She has a really unique vantage point, huh?
Yeah.
She gets to kind of see our dynamic play out, like our relationship play out in real time. So beyond just our maybe jabs at each other on Instagram and Twitter and that kind of thing, but she gets to see us actually be jackasses in the real world.
In real time.
Yeah.
Super fortunate for her.
Yeah, that was my thought. Like, that must be really nice for her. But with that,
Really
wanted to,
patient, kind, understanding person still talks to us after witnessing that.
yeah, it is surprising. It must take a lot on her part. But we wanted to thank Josie for shouting us out, and she sent us a really kind message just about she's been sharing the acceptance pod with some friends of hers, and so we just wanted to say thank you for the support, and it's good being homies.
Yeah, nice shout, J Money.
Nice shout, Jay Money. Hey, I got a quick anecdote too.
Yeah.
Following up on patience.
Oh yeah.
So last weekend, the Wolfpack, who you'll hear about in this episode,
The Wolfpack rivals to the Coconino Cowboys.
Yeah, we're almost as fast, equal in numbers. But we went and did the new Heart Trail, and
Oh man.
I would say that we got lost.
So the new Heart Trail just got done.
Yeah,
Yeah. You guys,
it's super rad.
yeah.
Super rad. So if
Really
anyone
rad.
gets a chance to go up the New Heart Trail, right up Eldon, it is a great trail.
And you guys got lost.
We got lost mostly because we're dumb. It's pretty hard to get lost, I think.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I had another friend tell me they just went and rode it, and they're like, and I said I had some friends who said they got lost on it, and he's like, huh.
How would you do that?
That was kind of his response.
Yeah.
He didn't say it in those words, but it was kind of like written all over his face.
Yeah, but you were kind of showcasing that same thing just a second ago when I
Yeah.
brought it up. Like, how could you get lost on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got lost. We took the old Heart Trail to the New Heart Trail, and then missed the old Heart Trail on the way back down. Ended up running a couple of miles beyond where we wanted to turn. At any rate, patience, man. So I was just talking about that exact thing in that last podcast. Like when you misjudge mileage or get lost, it's really easy to become impatient. But yeah, for me, actually, our episode was ringing in my ears. I was thinking like, okay, just let this unfold on its own time. Keep hiking back to where we need to go, kind of thing.
Yeah, this is its own process.
This is its own process, and it was hot as bees out there, and we had no Wawa. It was a scorcher, man. It was tough,
Oh man.
but we made it.
Yeah, it was hot. It's unseasonably hot. It was unseasonably hot this last weekend.
It was.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
I'm
So-
glad you guys survived.
Hey, thanks, Dan.
How did the patients pull through?
Patience pulled through, man. I think
That's good.
for the most part, the Wolfpack kept it together. Just a couple panic attacks from various members, but everyone lived, man. We're good.
That's good.
There's a lot to learn.
Panic attacks are part of the process.
That's part of the process. You just got to ride that out and let it
Ride
unfold in
that
its own
out.
time.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay.
So what do we got going?
Super stoked for today.
Yeah.
Yeah. For this show, we're going beyond flag with Eric Senseman, aka Captain Americana.
I like that.
Yeah. You know what I'm referencing, right?
Oh, it's got to be the photo, huh?
Check out ericsensman.com.
Yep.
That photo in and of itself, Captain Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Eric is a professional ultra runner. He's a running coach, and he's also the director of strategy, DOS, for Squirrel's Nut Butter.
Dang, he's the DOS for SNB.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's
okay.
got that CDA, Cody's daily acronym.
There we go.
Yeah. Eric has a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Texas Christian University and a master's degree in philosophy from the University of Wisconsin. So he went to opposite corners of the country.
Yeah.
And he also talks about diverse cultures in those two towns.
Yeah.
He has worked in renewable energy and is a journalist in the past, and he's currently running for Flagstaff City Council.
Okay.
Election day, November 3rd.
Third. Get in
there.
them ballots.
Yeah. From what I can tell, Eric demonstrates a genuine curiosity in the world and a connection to Flagstaff here. A listener recommended that we interview him, and here we are doing the interview for
That
him.
happened quick, huh?
It did.
Yeah.
Short turnaround there. So Eric has traveled all over the U.S. before settling down here in Flagstaff, Arizona, and describes this area as better than any other in terms of trail accessibility. So it'll be fun to explore how he lived all over and then chose to land here in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, let's go beyond flag with...
Eric Senseman.
Welcome to Beyond Flag, a Beyond the Pines production, created by, with, and for the people of Flagstaff, building connection in the town we love. We are your hosts,
Dr. Daniel J. Phillips.
and Cody Bayless, also known as Dr. Chinchilla Nice Nice. Thanks for tuning in as we go beyond Flag, straight from the dunny of our observatory.
All right, willkommen. We're in the dunny.
In the dunny.
Yeah, but it's not just you and me, Dan. We're here with another person.
We got another human being here with
but
us.
We're here with Eric Senseman. Before we get going, it was important to us, now that you're here with us, we just recognize that you're superior in every way to us. Like your mustache doesn't look picked over, your hair's done, like tall, win races, all this kind of stuff.
I've never realized that picked over is the best description for your mustache.
Oh, dude, it looks like a beat up garden, man.
Yeah.
It's awful.
And here we got Captain America.
I know, man. This picture on the website. Seriously, I look at this picture and it's like, man, we're here with Captain America. That's amazing. So I don't know if you noticed this, but we put our biggest books next to you, just as kind of like that's our power play.
That's you throwing your weight around.
Yeah, that's us throwing our weight around. That's all we got.
All we
man.
got. Two big books that neither of us have read.
That none of us have read. Just a couple beta males.
Yeah. So it's Eric Senseman that we got with
Yeah.
us.
It's
So
very nice of you guys to bring me on, and that was one of the more creative introductions in terms of my being brought onto a podcast. So I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how Cody takes that automatically as a compliment.
Like, hey, you said that we're creative, man. I love that. Yeah, we're in. So, Eric, again, thanks so much for joining us. We just kind of want to start with life now. Like, what's going on for you now? We're about, 6-7 months into the pandemic.
Yeah.
Things have changed a lot. I guess just be curious to hear what things are like for you right now.
As particularly as like a sponsored athlete, I'd be curious about what that's like.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as we discussed when I walked in, we don't shake hands or,
Yeah.
or hug
No.
anymore. So that's different.
Yeah.
From the perspective of an athlete, so when I knew things were real when they stopped spring training. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm from St. Louis, so I'm a Cardinals fan. And I try to watch all the games. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I don't know if you heard, but the NBA season, like they're calling it." And I was like, that's just
Yeah.
the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. And then like the next day, the MLB season got canceled, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is something different."
Yeah.
And of course, then any running races were canceled as well. So you kind of have to. I think it makes you reevaluate why you do the things you do, or what motivates you to do the things you do when you take away kind of the outcome or the goal that you're working towards.
Yeah.
And so I had some difficulties in terms of trying to be motivated to get out and train, because when you train really hard, and I'm training for races that are 50 miles long, 100 kilometers, 100 miles, you really have to. Running and training has to be the priority every single day. You have to wake up, and that has to be the first thing that gets done. Everything else is secondary. And it requires a lot physically and mentally to sort of maintain that, keep that moving day after day. And when you don't have that goal, what I learned is I got a pretty hard time continuing to do that, to put myself through that mentally and physically. So it was definitely, I had some months where it was like, well, I feel lethargic or just sort of unmotivated. I don't know there's nothing to train for. So, and I think everyone probably went through that to a degree with something in their life. Maybe you're just like an avid moviegoer, and now you can't go to the movies, and it's like, well, what do I do? Whatever it might be. So yeah, it's been different. I do think in my particular sport, ultra running, very small fields comparatively to say like a major road marathon. You're talking like 50 to 300 people, very long. So you're very quickly alone.
Spread out.
Typically you're outdoors. So some races have started to come back with a little bit different protocols in place, but I do think it's a sport that, if of any sport, is capable of returning to competition in a safe manner. So I am actually signed up for a 50-mile race in November, the JFK 50 mile, which I've run a few times.
Yeah.
And is the oldest 50, I think it might be the oldest continuously run ultra in the country, because it started in 62 maybe.
Okay.
So it's been around. It's typically over 1,000 people. It's actually generally almost every year is the largest ultramarathon as well. So we'll see what happens if they actually have the race.
Are they limiting entrance?
You would have to suspect so. Now, what some other races have done is wave starts, where you're starting with like 30 people at a time, a couple minutes apart. That would be a long starting line with 1,000 people. But we'll just see, if I'm feeling comfortable to travel and if the race actually happens. But I'm glad I signed up because I've been running more.
Yeah. So having that goal kind of gets you back on the trail.
Yeah, exactly right. I just don't think I realized how important that was to sort of motivate me. But we're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So you're training for JFK 50, and that's in November.
Yep.
There's also an election in November.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess day to day, sounds like running's become prioritized. I know you just came over here from a meeting with Chamber of Commerce, you mentioned. In addition to running, training, what else are you doing?
Yeah, so I've held two jobs with local companies over the last 2 years. So I moved here in October 1st, 2017. And initially I worked at the local running store, Run Flagstaff, which was great. It got me out here and got me started. And then I was fortunate to have these other opportunities pop up. So I coach for it's online coaching largely, but for a local company called Sundog Running. And then I'm a director of strategy at a local company, Squirrel's Nut Butter. Now, that title, there's maybe 4 of us, and I gave it to myself.
Director of strategy.
Yeah,
But
the DOS.
The DOS. If you were to Google director of strategy and learn what that even is, do I fulfill many of those roles? I do. So I feel okay about calling myself that. But that's been really fun. So we make an all natural anti-chafe and skin restoration salve. I feel like this is becoming an infomercial.
No, that was so well put. I've heard it referred to as so many other things.
Yeah.
But say that one more time.
Yeah,
What is it?
It's an all natural anti-chafe and skin restoration salve.
Okay.
With just 4 ingredients. So we could keep going, but
that's the most kosher description of it I've ever heard.
What description do you hear?
Let's keep this for the family.
Okay, you got it.
You put it on parts of your body.
Yeah.
The PG version. But no, that's been really, really cool. I came in at an interesting time. The company had been around a couple years, still sort of getting their proverbial feet under them. Started selling on Amazon and started picking up some bigger accounts, but very much in terms of infrastructure, logistics, strategy, did not have things in place and didn't have much of a plan. So I was able to come in and have a lot of autonomy and valued input that led very clearly to a lot of successes in the last few years. So that's been really cool.
Very cool. So it's grown a lot.
Yeah.
What are kind of the next steps for Squirrel's Nut Butter?
Yeah, we took a big step just a couple months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago now, and we started selling our product directly on Amazon instead of using a third party.
Okay.
So we have been using a third party, so that was a bit of a risk, but so far it's paying off well. The margins are a lot higher is the big thing. Yeah. But the question was, do we know how to use Amazon? So we're just going to sell it ourselves. Yeah. So who's going to take care of that? And it's like, all right, well, obviously I'll be part of that team. And I have a good friend who has an MBA and real smart guy. He's actually in Florida, but brought him in. And so he's helping. He started helping with the finances a year ago, but he's helping on this Amazon project, and we're sort of figuring it out. So,
yeah. What a great thing to figure out, because that's going to be the way things go in the future.
Absolutely.
So,
I joke with the owner, Chris Thornley, that I'm really just using this to parlay it into a well-paying job.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump ship.
Yeah. No doubt.
You're on track.
Good culture over there. Good people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Thornley and his wife Stacy have both. Well, Stacy may actually be from Flagstaff, but Chris moved here in the '90s. Big outdoors guy. Moved here because he was a rock climber. So he'd been here a long time. He started a tree trimming business, which was, I think, Agassiz cutting. I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever cut your trees?
He did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, real quick interjection. I think our house was one of the last homes he ever cut trees for before going to Squirrel's Nut Butter full time.
Yeah, didn't you tell me that he was talking to you? He was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to dip out.
Yeah, he's like, "This is my
squirrels."
last week," and he left a bunch of Squirrel's Nut Butter for me, which is super
That's
cool. Yeah. So
He's-
yeah.
Generous to a fault. He's a very, very kind man.
The director
Yeah.
of strategy sees it as a fault.
Yeah. Super cool guy.
So I think he did that for like 10 years. I think he was just wearing on them because that's like, pretty labor intensive work when you're climbing up and down trees and cutting limbs. But good people at Squirrel's Nut Butter, very good culture.
Yeah. Very cool.
It makes me curious. What does it practically look like in a week for you? Because it sounds so fluid. So balancing the coaching and working with Squirrel's Nut Butter, what does that look like? And
Well,
running.
Yeah, let's use yesterday as an example. Yesterday had it all. I woke up at 6:45.
Yeah.
I did about 45 minutes of work for Squirrel's Nut Butter. There's typically some stuff at the start of the day that needs to get pieced together. Drank my coffee, had my breakfast. My buddy picked me up, my buddy Tim, at 8 o'clock. We drove up to Schultz Tank, ran up the Weatherford Trail and back down, about 14 miles. Got home at 11:35, very quickly showered, ate some leftover pizza. Then the day really got started. Went to Squirrel's Nut Butter, had some work to get done, again, pretty quick, 30 minutes, some shipping, some different things. Then I had a haircut. I don't know. That's why my hair looks good.
That's what
There
it
it
is.
is.
That's what it
I
is.
planned it for this podcast.
Well done.
He would be on our level if
That's
it weren't
right.
for that. If it weren't for that haircut.
It wasn't for the haircut.
So I got my hair cut. Val's Workshop downtown, great spot. Put a couple signs up, the campaign signs.
I saw
'Cause the
those.
owner-
I saw those.
the owner was nice enough Val was nice enough to let me put them up. Then I had to go to the bank, deposit a check into my campaign account from some, funding that came in, some fundraising. Then I went to the president of the NAU Running Club's house and dropped off about 5 signs. Then I came home. It's about 2:45. Finally was able to get on my computer. I had to write 5 training plans. Got those done. I had to do a short video for one of my running sponsors, Rabbit. They make great clothes. And then I had to prep for a Zoom call at 6 with Flagstaff Moms Demand Action. So I did about an hour and a half of research and putting some things together. And then when that finished at 7, I cracked open a beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you earned it.
Yeah, it felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that leftover pizza, did that keep you satiated throughout the day?
Oh, I did have a snack later before the Zoom call. Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd overlooked that. And then my lovely partner Jackie made a delicious dinner.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Busy day and diverse, it's different stuff all throughout the day.
Yeah, I kind of have found a way to structure my life where I'm never really doing one thing for very long. I don't think I've ADD or anything. I can concentrate on stuff, but
We'll look for it.
I really like switching gears and just using my brain differently. And so that typically in a day happens a lot.
No doubt. So nice, different, bunch of different tasks, doing different things. I just think most people going up and down Weatherford by 8:30 in the morning, whatever, just be like, okay, that's a day.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
The
It's a tough trail.
14-mile run is the day activity.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Not just one of the precursors
And
to
then
the
spend
day.
5 days recovering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Flagstaff moms demanding action. What kind of action are they demanding?
Yeah, for largely gun control or trying to they're not against guns. They make that very clear, but they're against gun violence. And so what are ways we can reduce gun violence? They were curious from the city level, the mayor and city council, what sort of things, what ideas we had that we could implement. Really, when it comes to gun control, those are going to be state and federal laws. So a lot of it, if you're concerned with gun violence and want gun control to be more strict, is about endorsing candidates at the state and federal level that have that same view. But at the city level, there's still a number of things that can be done. So I was looking over the Flagstaff Police Department statistics annual report from last year. And so I just, the way I approach any issue, whether it's, gun violence or something else, is first go out and grab all the data, find all the evidence you can. And this, I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but this gets into my sort of background in philosophy. And this was one of the things that I guess I learned or formed me, molded me. So you got to go out and get all the evidence. You can't leave stuff out if you don't like it. You got to include that too.
Bummer, this sounds. I don't know that you're gonna make it in politics.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Like formulating decisions based on data. Weird.
It might just be 4 years locally, and then you can't get any higher on this platform.
No, this
too
is
much
inspiring. This is inspiring to hear. So you went and collected the information.
So I went out and I said, okay, well, what's going on? How many deaths are there? How many arrests are there? How many violent crimes are there? It's a little bit more difficult to determine how many were by gun as opposed to knife or something else. When it comes to violent crime, they don't parse it that finely. But I got all those statistics, and I looked at, just did research online. Just asked, how do you reduce gun violence in cities? And there's lots of great stuff out there. And I came across this book by this criminologist who... some of his policies and suggestions have been implemented in big cities across the country. Oakland, for example, and between like 2012 and 2017 in Oakland, when they implemented some of these policies, violent crime reduced by like 70%. Real world examples of how these things can be put into place. And then I just talked about how in Flagstaff, well, first, we're in a relatively good position. Violent crime is very, very low. And I just talked about, if we're trying to get that number to zero, that sounds nice. Here are some ideas. Here are some things that have worked.
Based on information and then empirically demonstrated experiences. Yeah,
Dan's still blown away that that's not the process for everything.
This is what leads me. Cody witnesses me short circuit, and I can't put together when people don't collect information and make decisions based on the information.
It's one of my favorite things to watch, honestly. Just Dan's brain just short circuit.
You could it's like palpable. You see it happen.
Yeah. I described it the other day. It's like watching a fly go across the room in slow motion and hit a window.
Smack.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah. I love it. So what were some of those things that help reduce 70%? I mean, that's a staggering figure.
So what they've tried to do is build trust in the community. A lot of that is communication and sort of open forums. Second, augmenting the police force with other agencies such as social service workers and healthcare professionals. And third is a policy called focused deterrence. And it turns out that, like in Oakland, for example, I don't know the exact population, but hundreds of thousands. And they identified a group of about 400 people that were at the highest risk to commit a violent crime. Because in most cities, it's actually a very small number of people that are likely to commit these crimes. And basically, they go and they contact them and say, hey, look, we know who you are. We know your history, because most of them have a history of violent crime. We'd like to see this stop. And so we want to work with you and try to help you to better yourself, get out of a position where you need to be doing these things. And if you don't, we know who you are. We're going to arrest you. You know, and so what they do is they try to put them in touch with some of these agencies. So you
But
have to
not-
spend money.
Yeah, not in a punitive way either.
Right,
So when
correct.
they approach these people, they're looking to get them connected to,
Yes.
to social programming.
That's exactly right. So it's not we're here to arrest you. That last point was just like, you know,
Yeah,
if you keep committing violent
it's gonna
crime,
go
we've
that
got
direction.
to arrest you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they try to get them. They try to better their life. And what a novel idea, you know? Crime can be reduced by improving people's livelihood.
Yeah.
Isn't that a wonderful world instead of just letting it happen and locking people up?
Yeah.
So again, some really good stuff out there. I forget the name of the book that I came across by this criminologist, but it sounded like something I'd like to read.
Yeah, we can look it up and then post it in the show notes.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
that'd be great.
It makes me curious, though. You kind of just tipped your hat a moment ago talking about studying philosophy. And so, yeah, we read a bit about you and saw that you attended, I guess, Texas Christian University and then U of W. So, yeah, tell us a bit about how you ended up at TCU and ended up as a philosophy major at TCU.
Dan, we selling them.
Selling dams. What do we
Selling
got today?
We got a 2011 International Pro Star TA Truck Tractor Pro Star.
Pro Star twice?
Yeah, just in case you're confused on what kind of star it is.
Ah, okay.
Straight out of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
What does this Pro Star got?
Comes with Cummins ISX 450 HP. Assuming that's horsepower, not Hewlett Packard. Comes with an engine brake, 10-speed AR suspension.
I think this is a great one because I know our listeners have been looking for tractor trailers.
Yeah, no doubt. And this joint looks like a banana. It's bright yellow.
For all the listeners at home, write this down. Is post ID 719-256-1711.
719-256-1711. Get dams.
Yeah, tell us a bit about how you ended up at TCU and ended up as a philosophy major at TCU.
Yeah, I find it an interesting story, but it's my life. I'm a little biased, right? When I was applying to schools, my sister is 10 and a half months older than me. So we're quite close in age.
Okay.
And so she had gone to TCU. They have a rather good music department. And she initially went there for music education.
Yeah.
And she got an education degree, but not music-based. So she was down there. We were pretty close. And she said, hey, when you're applying to colleges, you should apply to TCU.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure.
And you're at
I'm in St. Louis. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. And I actually wanted to go to the East or West Coast. So I applied to like UCSB and I think Stanford, didn't get in there. Beat Boston University, Boston College.
Yeah.
I was looking.
coast.
Yeah, exactly. But I applied to TCU, and I think I got into like 6 of the 8 schools I applied to, and then TCU sent me a letter and said, "Hey, we'll give you 50% off your tuition as an academic scholarship.
Yeah,
We will offer you a scholarship." And I was
Yeah.
like, "That sounds sweet."
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm going to TCU.
Yeah.
So I did. And when I got there, my intention was to prepare for law school. I thought I wanted to go to law school. So I started as a political science major, and they didn't really have a pre-law program. It was like loosely based, but they said, okay, if you're going to do pre-law, here's the courses you should take. And in addition to a number of political science courses and otherwise, there was a critical reasoning course, which was in the philosophy department. So I took that class. I did extremely well. And towards the end of the semester, my professor said, hey, you should major in philosophy. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I really liked it. It seems like I'm good at whatever it is you guys do. And I was like, I'm planning to go to law school. And he's like, oh, that's great. Tons of law school students were philosophy majors. It gets you, it's writing and it's thinking and it's logic. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm convinced. So I did. I switched my major my second year, third semester, I think it was. And then really just got into, took tons of philosophy classes in all sorts of topics. My advisor, who suggested that I major in philosophy, he was really into formal epistemology, which is basically using logic, probability theory, decision theory to make sense of the world, figure out how you know things, and how to make decisions based on what you know. And so, yeah, I just got super into that field. And so I wrote a thesis my senior year on justified inconsistent beliefs. And so I was asking the question, can you have a belief system where at least two beliefs are inconsistent, but you're actually justified in believing everything that you believe, even though at least one belief has to be false. And yeah, it was really interesting. So that got me into grad school. That paper, along with you take the GRE. And so I got into University of Wisconsin-Madison, which I was really
hang
psyched
on.
about. Yeah.
So
We'll take a step back before we go forward.
This is phenomenal. So I'm super curious. Do you have any practical examples?
Yeah,
of
I
something
do.
that demonstrates that?
I was hoping you'd ask.
Yeah. Well, I asked. Yeah.
I didn't want to presume and just start boring you.
Oh no.
So we used lotteries by way of example or application. Yeah. So you have a lottery, and let's say there's 100 tickets. Yeah. So the probability for any given ticket to win is 1%. Yeah. There's a 99% chance it doesn't win. Yeah. Because also in this model, you're assuming exactly one ticket will win. So you would be justified because you have a 99% probability of believing for any given ticket that it's going to lose. But you also believe that one ticket will win because that's built into the model. So if you add all those beliefs together, you don't believe that any of the tickets will win individually, but you also believe that one of them will, and those are inconsistent. So the question is, are you justified? So again, it's a case, this is a very, very simple case, but you use probability to say, yes, you are justified, and here's how. And you use probability theory to show, look, for any given belief that you have, the probability of it is 99% or higher. You should always believe something if it has a 99% probability or higher. That's the short version of kind of how that argument works. So, lotteries, pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's a really interesting example.
Yeah.
Next time I encounter cognitive dissonance with a client, I'm just gonna can I get a copy of that paper? Just hand them the paper.
Like here's a Senseman. What year was that? Yeah.
That was we'll have to get that out of the archives. What year was that? 2010, I think that would have been. Yeah. The bigger question we were working that's like kind of zooming in. Yeah. But the bigger question that my advisor was asking, and that I was also interested in, is what is the best model for knowledge? So there are a number of models in epistemology, like, for example, foundationalism, or theory. It's a theory, and it says the way that you know things is by starting with the foundation of things that you know, like logical truths, like 1 + 1 = 2. That's a foundational knowledge. Well, if you know that, then you can build off that. You know that, whatever things that entails. What we were working with was a model or a theory called coherentism. And you know something insofar as that belief is produced from a coherent belief system. So if a belief system is coherent, then any belief that you develop from that system will be justified, basically. Yeah. So, the folks at University of Wisconsin liked it, I guess, enough to
That's where you went. Yeah.
That's where I went.
Yeah. So did you have an interest in going to UW, and how did you pick UW as one of the places you wanted to go to next? Because that's really different from Texas itself.
Very.
And kind of a similar, I wonder if it's a similar atmosphere on campus or not.
Quite a lot different.
Is it?
Those two cultures for sure. Rather different. I wasn't so much concerned with that. I was worried about getting into the best possible program I could. So I basically applied to all the top 25 schools in the country. And UW was the highest ranked one that I got into. I think they were 16th or something in the country. Yeah, so that's why I went there. But I think I lucked out because Wisconsin's a beautiful state. Madison is a wonderful town, and I had a really great 2.5 years being there. But yeah, so I started in a PhD program. I left after I got my master's. What I found is interesting is it is reminiscing on, say, my paper from my senior year of college. If you want to get a PhD and you have to get published. And you guys, I imagine, know this to an extent, having PhDs yourselves.
Don't assume anything.
This is why we're not in academia.
Although in a different field, but in philosophy, you had to start making these points that were so fine-grained, like so down the rabbit hole. In order to make for something new, contribute to the field and to the research. And I was just like, but this doesn't. No one's life is going to change based on this point I'm making.
Yeah.
And probably like 5 people will read it.
Yeah, a handful of people read it.
Yeah, and there's just it's not at all applicable to people's lives. And I just, that didn't sit well with me. And I was just like, that doesn't motivate me to want to do this. It makes me think I should do something else, actually. So when I realized that, I was like, well, I'm like a semester away from my master's. Let's get the master's and we'll get out of here. So
Wow. Was that a tough decision-making process? Was that a tough shift, like a paradigm shift at all?
probably, I think like all things, there are many like inputs that slowly like change the way you think about something, which ultimately leads you to maybe very different beliefs over time, but like it never feels at any given time like you've had some radical shift. But yeah, I think when I came in, I was all gung-ho about, being an academic and researching and philosophy can save the world or, whatever ideals I may have had. And I think by the end I was like, I think academics just don't really get what's going on, and I don't think that researching at this level is valuable. What I did think was extremely valuable was the teaching, and that I very, very much enjoyed. I was lucky enough, actually, by my 3rd semester, I was a lecturer, so I had my own class. Typically, you'd be a teaching assistant for 4 semesters, but they just happened to be a little short with their lecturers, and I had really good scores for my TA, my teaching from the student evaluations. And so, they made me a lecturer my 3rd year. So I had 3 semesters of lecturing,
cool.
which was just awesome. I really, really enjoyed that. I think learning and teaching philosophy on that level is super valuable. It changes people's worldview. It makes them see the world differently. It makes them see themselves differently. I taught an applied ethics course to juniors. And one that there's this famous sort of case that Peter Singer brings up, and it's called I forget the name of the thought experiment now, but the question is, if you see, let's suppose that you're walking along one day next to a pond, wherever that is. I don't know. Not here. We don't have water.
I got old Francis Short Pond over there.
Francis Shore Pond over at Thorpe Park.
Yeah, exactly. Or Schultz Tank, which is getting increasingly low. But you're walking along and you see a baby that has somehow fallen into the pond and it's drowning. And you see it and you're like, oh, there's a baby drowning. Should I help or not? This is the question. And it turns out that day you're wearing your favorite pants. Okay. And these pants were not cheap and you like them a lot.
Pants or jorts?
Jorts. What do your favorite accoutrement?
His favorites are jorts.
So it would be jorts for you.
Yeah, expensive jorts.
The only thing that is a connection with expensive jorts. Does that exist? That's like an oxymoron.
It is an oxymoron. I think jorts are free, right?
Well, I mean, what was once pants?
Right.
Okay.
Expensive pants.
So Cody's walking along.
Cody's walking
Schultz
along.
tank. That's getting increasingly small, and the baby is fallen into the small part of the pond
Right.
that's left.
It's more like a mud pit, probably, but it's sucking the baby down. Yeah.
And Cody's thinking, I got these super nice jorts.
Yep.
Dilemma. Okay.
Yeah, this is the moral dilemma.
Yeah.
So the question is, okay, despite that fact, do you help the baby and ruin your jorts? The important thing here is they're gone forever. You've
Not recoverable.
That's right. That's the end of them.
Yeah.
And Peter Singer says, well, yes, obviously you do, because if you didn't, you'd be an awful person.
Yeah.
And the calculus there is very, very clearly skewed in favor of human life over jorts. Which some might, take issue with.
So you just
Do I know the baby?
Whose baby are we talking about
You
here?
just said the calculation's easy, and Cody's face is like, well,
Hold
a little hard.
Whose baby are we talking about?
Yeah. And which jorts of mine? I think this comes from his face. To be fair,
These jorts?
Cody recently lost a real near and dear pair of jorts to his heart.
So this is hitting home at the right time.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling something pretty strong right now.
a twinge
I
of
just
trauma.
lost my favorite
He's got
jorts.
his
Yeah.
PTSD. How did you lose them real quick?
Well, okay, here we go. So, my wife, so Jamie, she
Yeah.
hates my jorts, and not because they're jorts, but just because I've worn them literally every day since May. and so I had another pair of jorts. They got super messed up. They got tar on them. They were like just ugly. They had holes all around them. They were like botched. And so we had gotten home the other night. I can't remember. I think we had gone out to dinner with some family. Got home, we were in the backyard, and the back pocket was ripped, and she just grabbed it and ripped it as hard as she could and just ripped them in half. Ripped the whole back part of my jorts off.
Yeah.
And for her, it was very cathartic. For me, it was like just pure
A
grief.
tragedy.
Yeah, just
Grief
loss.
loss.
Yeah.
Went into the Kubler Ross.
Yeah,
Grief.
I was just stepping right in that
Cycle.
denial.
Yeah.
I'd just jump straight to anger. Those are my jorts.
I would
Yeah.
imagine depression.
Yeah.
You buried
next
him in the
morning.
backyard.
Yeah.
So when he asks whose baby it is, this just comes from a real sensitive space.
I get it.
You know?
I get it.
Yeah.
And these are important questions.
Yeah.
Actually, Peter Singer, in the article he wrote where he uses this thought experiment, does talk about who the baby is. And he says, that's a stupid question, doesn't matter.
I'm gonna hang on. That's a
thanks.
W for me.
Thanks, Eric.
I'm gonna hang on to that for a bit.
Who's this Peter Singer? I gotta
He had a bone to pick with.
I got a point.
Well, you and many people, evidently, at Princeton, when he was there, he, for a while, had a guard outside of his office for fear of his life. He wrote this book, I think I forget what year, called Animal Liberation. I think it was 1989. And he basically says, hey, it's wrong to torture what amounts to torture given the living conditions. It's wrong to torture and kill animals for gustatory pleasure. You're a bad person if you eat factory farm meat. Some people didn't like that message.
In the U.S.
Yeah, right. And apparently he had death threats, and it was a big thing.
Yeah.
He said some other things that he's probably the most well-known modern day philosopher. But
But he did name the question Cody just asked. He did
just had to
name
go
it
back
as
there, didn't you?
stupid. Okay.
that's right.
So it seems real smart.
That may or may not be verbatim, but that's the general idea.
Paraphrase.
He might have been more eloquent about it.
Okay. But the message rings true.
Right.
Yeah.
So to circle back, Cody's got to decide
Yeah.
with his nice jorts on if he's going to save the baby
Yeah.
and ruin the jorts. And he's like, of course you would. And he's like, it turns out, though, that every single day, most people in America, or a lot of people in America, choose not to save the baby. This is the way he phrases it. When you're reading it, you're like, what? What's he talking about?
Plot
How much
twist.
are there babies all over the place and ponds and people are walking by not getting them? Like, what's he saying? And this was really fun to teach because you could just see
The wheels
in the
turn.
students' brains just trying to okay, what's going on? What's next? And then he says, look, let's say you want to go to the movies tomorrow night.
Yeah.
For example, you're going to spend $30. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to get popcorn, whatever. You don't need to spend that money. That's a choice. It's superlative. It's over the top. It's extra money. There are millions of people starving to death around the world who, if you sent that $30 to the right organization, could help alleviate some of that hunger.
yeah.
You know, there's I forget at the time, 1.2 billion people in the world who live on $2 a day or less, U.S. buying power equivalent. So in a very real sense, you're walking by and you're not helping. And so then he goes through just a Rolodex of objections, and one of them is proximity. The students would always bring this up too, and they're like, "Well, the baby's right in front of you. You can just help it." People that are starving to death, a lot of it's sub-Saharan Africa, a huge percentage of that population. They're like, that's way over there. And so, Peter Singer addresses that, and he's like, look, moral obligation is not based on proximity. Proximity is not proximity does not make a situation morally relevantly different, is the way he puts it. So, that doesn't get you off the hook. The objections are all just about like, okay, how can I get off the hook? In any case, my class the next week, without any prompting of mine, it was like 20 students. They brought in, between the 20 of them, $300, and they said, we'd like to donate this to an organization that you think would be best. So I said, okay, we'll send it to Oxfam. And so we did. And I was just like, wow, that's cool. So that part I was sad to walk away from, because the experiences like that were, that's about as good as it gets in terms of fulfillment and feeling like you can make a difference in the world in a positive way.
Yeah, so there's like two things happening simultaneously there, in a sense. Is like one kind of sense like that, like disenfranchisement with academia. Like I remember a conversation with Montoya, Dr. Montoya, thinking like there are these barriers kind of inherent in the whole system. It seems like when you become aware of that, it led you elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then there's also this experience of like, well, there are some things about this that are very meaningful. And so I'm curious where it went from there.
All right, we're back. Selling dams.
Selling dams from Craigslist. What do we got?
This is a good one.
It is.
I actually am not familiar with this.
Okay.
This piece of machinery.
Yeah.
It's a stump grinder.
That's not machinery. That's a dance move I used to see at Maloney's back in the day.
Oh, no.
They're selling stump grinders?
So is that why Maloney's got shut down?
No, that's my best guess.
Too much stump grinding?
Dude, too much SG on the dance floor, SG on the DF, that's no good. Way too much stump grinding. But I'm glad to see they're coming back on Craigslist.
Yeah, well, this is different than that. This is different than a dance move at Maloney's.
Huh.
This is a stump grinder. It's the Power King 11-inch with 14 horsepower Kohler engine. Like new. Used on less than 20 stumps. 1 to 2 foot in diameter. Factory teeth over 90%. Plus, comes with replacement set.
Boom. What I see there is this joint is ready to grind some stumps.
Yeah. So check it out. Post ID 719-254-6571.
Get dams.
And so I'm curious where it went from there.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. To some extent, that was 2013 that I graduated, December 2013 from UW. To some extent, I feel like running for city council to some degree now is finally kind of getting back to those motivations and like wanting that to experience that again.
Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't pretend to be a saint because you're running for local office, right? But just the idea that you can have a direct impact on people that can be positive. So for me, from there, I got into business initially. I went down to Florida. The friend I mentioned, who now helps out at Squirrel's Nut Butter, was living down there, and he was like, "Hey, we started working on this my last semester at UW." He's like, "Hey, Solar City is offering residential solar leases to people all over the West Coast. And the thing is, there's when you lease a system for your house, there's no $0 down. It gets put up and installed for free. Then you just make monthly payments. It's like typically a 20-year lease. So the lease would get transferred if you sold the house. But the cool thing is the systems are big enough, especially in Florida, and produce enough power that it completely covers your utility bills. So you might have been paying $200 in utility bills. Now you're going to get all that energy from your system, and you're going to pay $130 to lease the system for that month. So you're saving $70 a month. So the model is brilliant. You just have to have funding. You have to have some other things figured out. You have to have a lease that's legally binding, and the lawyers looked over it, I guess. Yeah. So we started working on this, and he's like, I know I have a solar system. I know these manufacturers down here are producers, got these venture capitalists that are interested. We can start this company. I was like, sounds cool. It was super interesting. So I moved down to Orlando, and I suppose there's a tinge there of the same theme of helping people. I mean, that's helping people save money. Yeah. It's helping the planet by way of using alternative energy. Yeah. So still had a bit of that. But yeah, I moved down there. It was a ton of work. We were young. I was 22, 23. No, how old was I? 23. And he was about the same, 24. Yeah. And you don't get a lot of respect from rich people when you are young and have ideas, or at least not these rich people.
Man, the capital holding white guys that are just holding on to old ideas.
So it didn't go terribly well. I think we ended up getting maybe 70 systems installed while I was there for about 6 months. Yeah. We definitely got off the ground, but I had to leave for a number of reasons, including living in Florida. You guys lived in Florida?
No, I've never been. I can't imagine.
It's pretty bad.
I just see the headlines.
So that alone, I was like, I gotta go somewhere else.
Wasn't for you. Wasn't
no.
a good fit. There's this real motivation to action. So Cody, you keep pushing towards this, and it's like you're not satisfied with something that's just focused on learning. It has to be the application of whatever you're learning.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. I've never thought about it in those terms, but I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
So then where did you go from Florida then at that point?
Yeah, then I really just was disillusioned by establishments. From academia to business, I was just like, man, the world is kind of a rough place to find a way. So from there, actually, I had met Jackie. We had met at my cousin's wedding. So she went to college with my cousin. And so we had met and we were dating, and she was living in San Francisco, which is a lovely city. I'm not huge in city living, but I could definitely live in San Francisco, aside from the astronomical housing costs, etc. So I went out there and stayed with her for a bit. She had been working for a big company, actually for real. They make milkshakes. They're the ones at the gas station. So you go in and you get it out of the freezer, and then they have like a little blender that adds hot water and blends it right there. You ever seen these?
I haven't.
Oh man, that. They're in thousands and thousands of convenience stores around the country. They're actually delicious too.
I'm gonna have to hit up a convenience store.
Yeah.
This is a new
concept for Dan.
This is a new route of administration
right.
for some of that pure white cane
sugar, man. I know you're talking smoothie. Dan perked up.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, there's an insane amount of sugar in these things. Yeah, they're very
perfect.
good.
Did you hear that? Insane amount of sugar.
Yeah, you'll be hopped up for way too long.
Yeah, when we finish this, I'm headed over to my nearest convenience store.
Yeah. So she was working.
She was doing design for real. It's like F''real.
Okay.
For real. And she was pretty over it and was like, man, I don't know, it's so expensive in this city, and I like barely cover my bills, and this job sucks. I'm gonna quit. And I was like, yeah. So she did.
Yeah, establishments suck.
Exactly. Yeah. She did, and we basically traveled around the U.S. for like a year. including like a 3-month stop in Flagstaff.
Oh, okay.
In the fall of 2014, we stayed with my aunt and uncle who live here
Oh, okay.
for a few months, which was cool. But yeah, we traveled. I think I kept I should have brought it, but I actually don't even know where it is, so that would have been difficult. But I kept this journal where I wrote everywhere we went.
Oh, cool.
And it was like, I think 33 states.
Wow.
I think like 18 national parks.
Yeah.
Did a ton of camping, staying with friends. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was super fun. Some crazy, crazy drives. One time we drove from San Francisco to Boston.
Oh,
gosh.
man.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first day we drove 24 hours straight, and we made it to Iowa. We were only in Iowa.
Yeah.
We still had so far to go.
Like halfway. Did you start seeing stuff at that point? Like,
It was like 5 a.m. and I was like, we have to. So we stayed at a hotel and they let us check in then for like the stay that upcoming night.
Yeah.
And I think legitimately I just slept
Slept
Yeah.
for
the whole
like
time.
24
Yeah.
hours.
Is this how do you remind yourself of that experience when you're on some of those endurance runs? And
Yes.
You're like, this is way better than sitting in the car for 24
Could be driving
hours.
to Boston.
Absolutely. Oh, I think too the mentality sort of they work well together. Like the ability to go out and run for
Just
8 hours.
persist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get in the car to go on a road trip, 12 hours somewhere, and you're
Yeah.
like,
It's
it's not that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I don't have to run. Like, at least I just
Just
get
have
to
to
sit here. And then when you go back to do the running, you're like, well, at least I don't have to sit in the car.
Yeah.
I get to
They work. So you just build each.
That's right.
You do an 8-hour run, 12-hour drive, 14-hour run,
yeah.
16-hour
24-hour
drive.
So this is, I don't know, I was just reminded of this, big tangent, but we lived in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
That's eventually where we moved after traveling around a
Okay.
bunch.
Yeah.
And we lived at the end of the street right up next to these train tracks.
Yeah.
So you'd see the trains go by all the time. And I was convinced that I wanted to be a train conductor, in part because I was like, I could sit and stare out the window for hours.
And get paid.
Right.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
It
But
didn't work out that way.
yeah.
That'd be a really good way to take it to the man. Take it to the establishment. It's
Drive
Oh,
this
I'm-
train.
You're paying me to
see
sit
the
and
country?
watch the countryside.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
I've finally won.
Yeah. So, Eric, when you were in Flagstaff for that 3 months, you mentioned keeping a journal. I was wondering how that time here, did it inform moving here eventually?
Yes and no. So we're in our mid 20s at that point, late 20s, me and Jackie. Living with adults after being on your own for so many years was, I think, especially hard for her, especially because it wasn't her family.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like, it's Becky and Todd. They're great. They don't care what we do. Like, we're having a good time. For Jackie, it was like, this isn't fun, which I totally understand. I don't think I saw it so well at the time, but wisdom
Hindsight.
comes with age.
Yeah.
And so she did not want to move here. When we moved to Denver, I had suggested Flagstaff, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, she liked bigger cities. I like the mountains. So that's how we came upon Denver.
Yeah.
But it turns out you're really not in the mountains in Denver.
It's
And
hard to get to 'em.
I think what she realized was she liked San Francisco, not cities. And those are different because San Francisco is a very uniquely cool city.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't really like Denver. So we were there for about 2 years, and it was, never really felt integrated with the community, and traffic was just crazy. And it was just, never enjoyed it all that much. So towards the end of that, when we were thinking, okay, we're going to move, where are we going to go? We actually came here for a wedding for a friend.
Okay.
And that was in the summer of 2017, I believe. And I'll have to ask him. Might have been 2016, but I think it was 2017. And had a great time and had a blast, and friends, and it was great. And then that started. That's when I started my campaign. That
you
was
go.
my first true campaign to
Moving to Flag.
to get Jackie to move to Flagstaff, and we did, and it's been great.
Cool.
It's been a lot better.
17 was when you landed here?
October 1st, 2017. We moved in a little place in Sunnyside. And one thing I always like to tell people, the day we moved in, we had 7 different people stop by to either help move in or say hey or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had 7 people visit our apartment in 2 years in Denver.
Wow.
And I think that paints,
Yeah, the
a very a picture about Flagstaff that I really think is accurate in terms of the community. It's an extremely welcoming, open, friendly community.
Yeah, it is something really neat about it. Can you talk a little bit about like integrating into the community and what it was like from there? Like, I'm thinking like running, becoming part of Coconino Cowboys, how that formed everything around that.
So again, having family here and having running connections and having been here for a wedding for a friend that lives here. So we knew some people. So that was a good start. And specifically, one of the big reasons I wanted to move here is this is one of the best places in the country to train for in endurance sports, but running in particular, trail running for sure. And I started to make these friends out here who had sort of self-created this group that they were calling the Coconino Cowboys, and the head of the organization, you might say, hard to really call it that.
The syndicate,
The chief of the tribe.
Really just this guy, Jim Walmsley. I had raced against going back to 2014 at the JFK 50 mile, which I referenced earlier on. So he and I had known each other for quite a while, and Jim's sort of like amazingly charismatic despite not seeming it at all. It's quite interesting. His ability to kind of connect people and kind of in a really subtle way, like motivate people, like get you to want to get the most out of yourself is really impressive. I don't know how or why. I don't think he knows how or why, but there's something about him that just, I think people gravitate towards, and so in that sense, he's charismatic, but like, if you like talk to him, you'd be like, oh, that guy was nice. Maybe a little weird,
A little quiet.
but I mean, super nice guy. So it's just sort of an interesting, juxtaposition. In any case, he was here. That was definitely part of like, oh, I want to go there and train. I met Tim Frericks and Cody Reed, who he trained with at some races in 2016. So I'd met those guys. Jared Hazen was moving here. I had raced Jared back in 2015. We got to know each other a little bit. It's just like, kind of this perfect storm of like, made sense for five different guys to be here and get together and train. And so that, became kind of the Coconino Cowboys. And we just started training together, and we were all winning races. It was crazy.
Did that come from Jim then being able to, you talk about that subtle ability he seemingly has to push people or else to draw people towards him and then elevate that growth? Did the winnings start because there was just that weird ambiance to the group collective?
I think so. Jim is a sort of person who, you train with him and he's going to try to drop you at some point, like pretty much every run. And I mean, if you're competitive, that doesn't sit well. You don't like that. And so you start saying, well, next time I got to figure out a way. Or at least not get dropped. Dropping him would be a big ask. But, I at least got to close the gap, like something. And then, like with any, I guess, team atmosphere, the energy sort of spreads out. And like once somebody's doing well and running well, you're like, well, I did that 25-mile training run with him. And I mean, I kept up and he just won this race. So I think I should definitely go out and win my race. So then that ball gets rolling and all, there's really good energy and just everybody's feeling confident. And that's a big part of life, but endurance sports in particular, a big part of it is believing that you can do it, believing that you can win. So that's a tool that should not be undervalued. And that's something, again, that Jim's really good at and kind of starts to instill in you this idea that you think you can win.
Yeah, so y'all kind of met through racing, ended up in Flagstaff together, started training together, and then sort of saw like this natural, we can do something with this in our own races. And then there was the Jamboree, was that right?
That's right. What was known, what historians will call and are now calling the Cowboy Jamboree, which was in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so one thing I was wondering was, did y'all create Coconino Cowboys, or did the internet create that?
Yeah, so Jim, Cody, and Tim created Coconino Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah, so they came up with the name. I think all of your listeners will know this, but we are in Coconino County, so that's where that part comes. And
We have a listener in Poland, so they might not.
so to be clear, Flagstaff, in fact,
Yeah,
is
that's
the seat of Coconino County.
Yeah, and can you say that in Polish?
For our Polish listener, that one guy.
One listener.
And the Cowboys, alliterative. It's Arizona. There's Cowboys, so the name I guess came that way.
Yeah.
Alliteration.
So can you tell us about Jamboree, like what exactly that was, how it developed?
Selling Dems.
Selling Dems, we're back. You probably thought that this is a new milestone for us. We're going to our third commercial today. You know what I got?
What do you got?
Free recliner. It's an older recliner.
So it's free.
Free.
No cost.
Yeah, there's no cost. This joint costs you nothing. It's an older recliner, showing its age but still comfortable. Some of the, quote, innards, end quote, seem to be so worn it doesn't recline like it used to. But feel free to come by and check it out. It's sitting on my front porch. If you want to, feel free to just take it with you. Address should be on the ad.
There you go.
But you're probably wondering, what's the post ID?
What is that post ID?
718-845-2039. Write it down. Get Dems. Innards are worn. Free recliner.
So can you tell us about Jamboree, like what exactly that was, how it developed?
So the Western States 100, or the Western States Endurance Run, is the oldest 100-mile race, probably in the world, definitely in the country. And it's run out in California from Squaw Valley, where the Olympics were held, I think in 1960, back in the 60s, to Auburn, California. And like I said, 100-mile race, it started as the Tavis Cup, which still goes on today, which is a horse race, which is 100 miles long.
Okay.
And as legend has it, this guy, Gordy Ainsley, one year, his horse came up lame, and he decided to do it on foot. And he did in just shy of 24 hours. And thus the foot race, Western States 100, was born. Yeah. So it has a lot of history. The best runners in ultra running, certainly in American ultra running, have run it. Many have won it. It's drawn pretty impressive international fields in more recent years. It's a very competitive race. It's really the pinnacle of the sport. So we all said, well, look, we're training together. We think we're all really good. Let's make that point. Let's all get into the Western States 100, go run it, kick some ass. Now, the thing about the Western States 100 is there's 369 spots. Exactly. Something with the Forest Service permit.
Yeah.
They limit that sort of thing and make it exactly
solid 369.
Right.
370. Yeah.
It's just easier.
That's the line.
Yeah. And it's tough to get in. It's a lottery. And the probability that you get in through the lottery is incredibly low because there's tons of people trying to get in. But there are 10 spots for men, 10 spots for women where you can race in. So you run some qualifying race earlier in the year and you finish top two. If you finish the top two finishers, get an automatic entry into Western States. So we had to go out and run these races. So I'm trying to remember that year. You could also get in through... Resume, basically, the Ultra Trail World Tour, which is a governing body globally, is part of Western States, is part of their race series, so they also have spots. So I think Jim got a spot through Ultra Trail World Tour, but was well deserved. He had every reason to get in. Cody went down to Texas and ran 100K outside of San Antonio, finished second. He got in. Then there was the Black Canyon 100K just south of us on the Black Canyon Trail, from Mayer, Arizona down to just north of Phoenix. And I was running it, and my buddy Tim was running it. I got sick the week before. So sick. It was awful. It's like only the third or fourth time I've ever thrown up in my life.
Oh, wow.
Like never throw up. I was very sick.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to give the race a try. And I felt terrible. And I think I ran with Tim for like the first 20 or 25 miles. And then I dropped at mile 30 halfway in. But Tim won. So now he's into Western States. Now he got 3 of 5. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I didn't get in through that race. There was one more called the Lake Sonoma 50 mile, very fast race, typically a very competitive race. So me and Jared Hazen are running that race, as was Jim, but he already was in Western States, so that was fine. And as it turns out, me and Jared got the two entries to Western States.
Yeah.
We ran well enough to get them. Jared did beat me, I guess I should say, but so I got the official last ticket. So yeah, we all got into this big, marquee 100-mile race, and that was the Cowboy Jamboree, as we called it.
Yeah, and then y'all went to Western. So with that Lake Sonoma, was there pressure? Because was that like one of the last races that you had to get the ticket for?
Exactly.
And you were did you finish 4th or was it 3rd?
I did. So the way it works is the tickets roll down if someone who finishes ahead of you is already in.
Okay.
So the Jim won, he was already in. The guy who got 3rd, Mario, had run a race and gotten in earlier in the year. So yeah, it was 4th.
Yeah. Because there's like an iconic photo of you crossing that line.
Yes. Yeah? Ended up on the front of Ultra Running magazine.
Yeah.
So I became very famous. I think circulation's like 500 people on that mag.
Ultra famous.
And I think my mom bought like 20 of them. So,
Shout out, Mom.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your mom's name?
Jean.
Jean?
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
We'll have
Jean.
to shout out. Does she have
no doubt.
an IG?
She does.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll we'll look
Have to
into
link
that
that
after.
up. Yeah.
And she'll be in town on Monday.
Hey.
I mean,
man.
Jean.
All right.
Yeah, this is great.
She's doing it. Is she supporting your platform?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She would
Proud mom.
probably no matter what I said
Yeah.
because she's a mom.
Yeah.
Just unwavering support and blind. But she probably believes most of it.
Cool.
Yeah, believes in most of what I have to say.
So she's showing up on Monday, Labor Day. She's gonna knock door to door, hand out buttons.
She flew out here in March and went door to door to help me get signatures on my
nice.
petition.
Man.
Like I said, blind, unwavering support.
Yeah. I like. Yeah. Shout out, Jean.
Shout out,
Yeah. And happy birthday. So maybe we could transition. So using running to your political platform in, was it January, February, somewhere around there? Every Single Street was the name of it.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you give us the rundown on that?
Yeah, the short story is I ran every single street in Flagstaff. It took 19 days. It was now I'm forgetting the mileage. I think 422.5 miles it took.
Yeah.
It could be done shorter. I started quite a few runs from my house, which required some covering streets
Multiple
many
times.
times,
Yeah.
but certain parts. So I got this idea, sort of twofold. One, a friend of mine, Ricky Gates, he's a beautiful person, very, very interesting. Like I told you before we started, his sponsor Solomon put together a short film on his Every Single Street project, and there's a link to it through my website, ericsenseman.com, that's just beautiful, and everyone should watch. I would encourage it. But Ricky had run across the country years ago, and he didn't do it for speed. He did it to better understand Americans in America. And he actually wrote a book called Cross Country that came out earlier this year about that experience. So he finishes in San Francisco where he lives. And as the story goes, about a year later, he goes to develop some film from some photos he had taken. And he goes to pick it up, and the woman says, "Did you run across the country?" And he's like, Yeah, I did. And he said that was the first time in a long time that he had felt, I guess for lack of a better word, special, or like he was doing something special. Because that was obviously a really neat journey for him.
Yeah.
So he had read about this guy who walked all the streets in San Francisco, but it took him like 15 years, like a super long time,
Yeah.
because there's tons of streets. San Francisco is about 7 miles by 7 miles square.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's almost like a perfect but it's big,
Yeah.
surrounded by water,
Yeah.
and then like a pretty clear demarcated line to the south. So it's like over 2,000 miles. No, that's not true. How many is it? 1,500, 1,200, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But then you can't run it perfectly. So you're going to run roughly 30% more mileage than the actual mileage of the streets. So he ran like 1,800 miles in like 55 days or something. It was crazy.
Jeez.
He was running like 30, 40 miles a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he does this project, and so he names it every single street. He sort of gives the movement a name. Not that he was the first one to ever do it, but to popularize it. Yeah. So I knew about that. I thought it was super cool, and I always thought, I'd love to do something like that someday.
Yeah.
Then this past fall, I was at a city council meeting, and what they were discussing was the parcel of land at the corner of Eldon Lookout Road and Schultz Creek Road, where people park to access the Schultz Creek Trail. Yeah. So that's actually private property. It's not city-owned.
The Y there.
That's right. Right next to it is city-owned property that's designated open space, but that small little parcel is private. So they were discussing possibilities for purchasing that land, etc. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the city council members didn't know where that was. They were like, sorry, where is that? Like the map that was shown was pretty zoomed in. Yeah. So they had to there was this whole back and forth for a minute to figure out where it was. And I was like, if you're in city council, you should know every damn
what the Y is.
Yeah, you should know everything about the city. And I was like, so should I, because I want to be a city council member. And if you ran every street, you'd know the city pretty damn well. I should run every single street in Flagstaff. Yeah. So that kind of came together. And then, starting, I think it was January 30th, I started earlier this year. I started running all the streets.
And you said it was about 400, like
422, yeah. Yeah, to be very exact.
Yeah. Dang, you covered that in a couple weeks' time?
19 days.
19 days?
Yeah. So I think I averaged I was doing basically 150-mile weeks, so 21, 22 miles a day, I guess.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So you did every single street in Flagpole. What did you learn about Flagstaff through that?
Yeah, a lot. On a practical level, just where a lot of stuff is. I don't think I've had to use Google Maps since that project, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I know all the streets pretty well, so that's cool. I learned about a lot of parks that I didn't know about before. Pretty much every little neighborhood has a park, which I think is really neat. Yeah, that was cool. But more broader strokes, bigger picture. I think one thing I was able to see is how the city's connected, or perhaps how it isn't, by way of roads, by way of non-vehicular means of transportation, trails, bike paths, sidewalks. I saw where it would make sense to expand. And a lot of these plans I've learned since are in place, but it's good to have corroboration with what I believed in being out there. But yeah, where it would make sense to expand. What neighborhoods are underdeveloped or overlooked? What neighborhoods are super nice and I'll never live in? Yeah. Like Pine Canyon. I sort of ran that illegally. But
you have to hop the fence? Or?
Well, there's a spot where the urban trail actually goes through.
Oh, right, yeah.
But it is a private neighborhood. I don't think you're supposed to be in there. But
right.
Sometimes you got to break the rules.
Yeah.
The urban trail was there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Gray. It's a gray area.
Yeah,
gray area.
Yeah. So, I guess those were some of the big takeaways. It was a bit like I don't know, like a city planning mission in some sense, like on foot. Yeah. It gives you, I think, a better appreciation for the place that you live and a better understanding of the different neighborhoods and how things are sort of segmented in good ways and bad ways. So yeah, it was a really neat project, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it seems that that would lend into your platform. And so, like, I guess I would wonder, can you share some of the issues, particularly that are important to you, that you're running on?
Yeah,
council?
absolutely. The thing that initially got me interested was, like I mentioned, I've had the good fortune of traveling around a lot, especially in the U.S. And I've never been to another place that has that affords people the easy access to trails and open space as you have in Flagstaff. I mean, you can drop someone. What I like to say is you can drop someone in Flagstaff anywhere in the city limits. Within a half mile, they can be on dirt or in an open space or outside, not on pavement. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's something that brings a really high quality of life for people that live here. And I think that it's part of the culture and character of this town, and something that people like about this town. Yeah. As we grow, and we are growing, I think it's important to have to ensure that continues to be a priority. Maybe not the number one priority, but a priority that's balanced with the other things that the city needs. What the other thing the city needs is housing, and we talked about this before we got started, but. Reports say we're 6,000 units short of where we should be. And if you're 6,000 units short, that means demand is far outpacing supply. That means it's much easier for landlords to charge more for rent. That means housing prices are going to be higher. And that means it's going to be difficult to bring in new jobs because where are you going to house people? It's difficult to bring in higher paying jobs, which I think we need. But you got to have the housing first. It all comes back to the housing. And I think the issue is there's always an issue. Someone always has a problem with where something's going to get built. And until people understand and the community understands that we have to make some sacrifices to improve this place for everyone, housing costs chief among them, it's going to be we're going to just keep running into the same problems. So, I think when it comes to housing, what we build should be thoughtful. It should be intentional. It should be well designed, and that it should use space efficiently. We need multi-story buildings to house people. We don't have an infinite amount of space. We're surrounded by forest, national forest. We can't expand forever. And so you have to start thinking about what's this place going to look like in 5 or 10 years. Well, you can't just keep building single family homes spread out all over the place. We will not be able to build enough housing given our finite resources and our finite land. So it's hard to enjoy a high quality of life when you're paying 40% more than the national average for housing in a town that really doesn't bring a lot of high-paying jobs.
Yeah.
That's a staggering number.
Yeah. Boy, you summarize it well. And I should say, you have this in addition to other aspects of your platform articulated very well at your website. So it's ericsensman.com.
Yep.
We'd encourage everyone to go check it out because you formulate these ideas there. And you address, I came across a tweet from Adrian Scabelund recently that I think epitomizes exactly what you're talking about. He said, one of the largest challenges I see for Flagstaff is that every resident strongly believes two things simultaneously. One, the cost of housing in this city is ridiculously high and must be brought down. And two, all development, all development, regardless of location or form, must be stopped. Yeah.
Very well put.
Yeah. And so I read that, listening to you, you're addressing exactly the same thing that he's addressing there. Does that intimidate you, or is that daunting to think that that's what you would be working with moving into city council?
I think the short answer is no, but probably because I haven't thought about it enough. But I think Another, I suppose, way that I approach things is if something isn't in my control, but I'd like to see that thing become a reality, then I ask myself, well, what is in my control that I can do to make this other thing that I can't directly control happen? So I think I would use that sort of format in this case and say, okay, I can't change everyone's mind because I can't directly talk to every single person.
No.
But what can I do? Yeah, I'd have to think about that more, but I think having a more open and transparent local government is part of that equation. And I think so many people's frustrations or beliefs about how the city's doing are based in not knowing the full story. And they don't know the full story because it's not made transparent enough at the city level. And I'm talking about laws, for example, that people aren't aware of. And they say, oh, well, why can't we do this? Well, it turns out that's illegal. The state has a law that says you can't do that. That should be made more clear by the city. We can't do something like that. Similar examples when it comes to zoning. The zoning is pretty complicated. It took me quite a bit to understand what was going on. A lot of people don't understand the zoning code, and so they have issues with, some of these student housing projects. But what they don't know is some of these student housing projects never needed approval from city council because the parcel was already zoned for that sort of housing, and so the developer got to build that scot-free. So these sorts of things, if you can make them more clear, I think is going to change the perspective of people in terms of what they're willing to accept and the compromises they're willing to make.
Yeah, I think it falls back on one of the premises that you established, or that applies to the philosophy that you follow, where if you can apply information, so if you can provide information to people, many of them are likely going to come to a similar consensus or at least a better understanding. Some never will.
Yeah, right.
Because it doesn't matter what information you present.
Yeah.
But your goal is to present information and to make decisions based on information.
Exactly right. And yeah, I mean, you can't fault, the citizens if they're not given all the information. How are they supposed to come to a conclusion that is accurate? So, yeah, I would agree.
So a level of transparency with all that.
Yeah.
Because I have that same experience. I'll look at like some of those student housing projects. I'm like, who the put this here? Like, who signed off on this? You know what I mean? Like, and just totally confused. And, and so experience is like, well, where did that come from? It changes dynamics a little bit. Like all of that stuff. I think it'd be really important to know as a citizen how these things come about.
Yeah. And that it's a much more complex issue because all those factors related to supply and demand, the fact that people need housing and we're not providing it, all of those things are so salient. And so I can have a passion for wanting to house everyone, but that's going to come into contradiction with not wanting any development as well.
Yeah.
I think you articulated it very well. Yeah, you got my vote. I'm wondering, is now the time? Is now the time that you're going to announce a presidential bid?
Senseman in 2028 or what?
Am I old enough? How old do you have to
2024.
24.
Senseman 2024.
Oh, you're old enough.
Because you have to be 35?
35, is that right?
Yeah.
I'll be 35 in 4 years.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
There.
So do you want to
It's
go
been
ahead and put that
announced.
out there now?
Yeah. And let it be known that this platform was the one where it was first said.
Yes, okay, thank you.
That's the important
Get that in the show
component
notes.
yeah. Well, it's been such a huge pleasure to sit down with you. We appreciate you taking the time, sharing about your experience in coming to Flagstaff, and then what your aspirations are in life, both as an athlete and as someone that's passionate about taking action.
I want to let you know we support you. It's also encouraging to see people who are younger getting into the political landscape and start pushing for some of these things. We didn't even really get there in this interview so far, but like renewable energy and a livable future, I think is just vital. To me, if I don't hear a candidate talk about it, you're not getting my vote.
Sure.
And so I was really encouraged to see that just on your website and part of your platform as well.
Yeah. Going out, there is one thing that I failed to mention. I don't know if you know this, but as a member of the Coconino Cowboys, you guys have a rival run group in town
It's the Wolf Pack. Have you heard of the Wolf Pack?
You know, I feel
You
like
ever heard
I've
of
seen
Wolfpack?
that out there. Are you guys affiliated?
Here's case.
The Wolf Pack.
Wolfpack, yeah, man. We're like a running club. We just like. I
Are you
don't
the
know.
chief? Are you the chief of the?
Nah,
Are you like the Jim Walmsley of
The
of Wolf
Walmsley?
Pack?
Nah, probably Jesse Coddington. If you know Jesse Coddington, he runs New Roots.
Yeah. I know
Fitness.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good friend. Anyway, we run a lot together, and back in the day, we called ourselves Wolfpack.
That's fantastic.
Which I think came from this like personality test, and all of us who were friends at the time, we were all wolf. Like we all got wolf, and Jesse was like a crow or something like that. It's like his animal or whatever.
your
was crow.
personality was on the basis of an animal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's a licensed psychologist.
I'm a licensed psychologist. This is bona fide clinical psychology there.
Right.
Yeah. I think we have more of a penchant for finishing in the middle of the pack and drinking beers and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you guys ever hear some howls when
Right.
you're out on the trails,
That's who it is.
just get off
That's
the
good
trail.
to know.
Get off the trail.
Yeah. That's
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been great.
doubt.
At some point, I'm gonna have to put together a list of people and businesses that endorse me. So I don't know how many different names you have for Beyond Flag, but hopefully there's several iterations. We can add them all to the list.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Make
Yeah.
them look like it's many different businesses.
Oh, we could do that.
Could we hashtag business names?
Boomerang names? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
we'd be
sure.
happy to talk about
For
that.
sure.
No doubt.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, yeah. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, here we are.
Back in the dun-dun
Captain Americana just left the dunny.
and all intact in one piece.
Yeah, all intact, one piece. What'd you take away from Eric Senseman?
Dude, first and foremost, after this, I'm going to go home and shave my mustache. I got to reset, man. I got to start over.
Your mustache is shying away from his?
Yeah, man. He's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Mine, again, looks like the landfill off 89, man. Just garbage.
Picked over.
Picked over. Oh, I feel so bad. So maybe the best thing that came out of this for me is I'll shave my mustache and my wife will look at me again. So it'll be all right.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was such an enjoyable interview. And what a wide range of experiences he had. The thing that kept coming to mind for me as the interview progressed is like he clearly had like a curiosity about the world, like wanted to learn about different things, but that he doesn't like staying stagnant just in the process of learning. Like he wanted to take action, like he wanted to put what he would learn, apply it into some real world application of that. So
Yeah, for sure.
seem oriented towards action.
You know, it seemed real evident when he was talking about his teaching experience where the people had given his students had given money to that program, that like there was something about that action that really sat well with him, that really lined up with what's important to him. And it seemed to me that really informed him, like, I got to do something actually. Like just being in the classroom, fitting the academic mold isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat. And I also got a call, I mean, not to center myself here, but like, how about when I asked the question about whose baby? Is that not your favorite part of the interview or what? And he says, well, actually, was it Peter? He says that's actually a really stupid question.
Well, I appreciated, that he brought up that question had been identified as not relevant and further as stupid, that it could be characterized as stupid.
Yeah, I could just see you just basking in your sick jollies over there,
I
just happy.
Well, I loved it in the moment because I understood your pain because I know how much you love jorts. And so for me, the question all made sense. And then when he was able to really pinpoint what a dumb question it was, it took me to a good place.
Just because I'm trying to justify keeping my jorts.
Yeah.
Like, how can I anything I can get here?
I'm too sucked into your world, so I was colluding with like how that's a reasonable question because of how much you love jorts.
Dude, I love my J's. I love them. It'd be really hard to get rid of my jorts. Speaking of jorts, I mean, it's on the horizon here. The weather's gonna turn. I'm gonna have to put them on the
Yeah.
shelf for a while.
Are you gonna transition from jorts into japris?
Japris? I would literally. I'm pretty sure my wife would kick me out the house or kick my teeth face in.
I'm gonna keep pushing this idea, see if we can get it.
Japris? Oh man, I don't know. If you could find a good pair, A Japrise? I might rock them.
Give me some of your pants. I'll make them some Japrise.
You make some Japrise. That might work out. We're doing the telehealth thing, so it's like I can really wear whatever I want on the bottom.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I mean, was there much caution to that before telehealth?
Yeah, I mean, at least wear something, not jorts.
That is true. The jorts only came out
Yeah.
after telehealth.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, tell you what, give me a pair of pants.
Okay.
I'll see what I can do to make them a pair of Japrise.
A pair of Japrise, you got it, man. I'll see if I can find some sweet Japrise out there.
All right.
Well, why don't you take us out by shouting us out?
No doubt. So you can always hit us up online at our website, www.beyondflag, flag spelled.
FLG.
And then you can always find us on the Instagrams. Our what do you call that? Our name is beyond_flag.
Add us.
You add us and get on that post. And I don't want to, maybe a nice shout here, Dan, but we're coming up on 30 Twitter followers here, man.
Yes. Can you say circle AS?
Circle AS.
Circle A us.
Circle AS. That's at us? Yeah. Oh, Lord. I think we just dropped down to 27 followers. But you can also find us on the Twitter. We're at beyond_flag.
Check it out.
And Dan is doing a real good job maintaining that joint. So nice shout, Dan.
All right. Check it out.
All right. In the meantime,
Take care.
lovies.